Happy Halloween, or Happy Reformation Day, or Happy All Hallows Eve, which is the night before what a lot of churches celebrate as All Saints Day on November 1st. So there's a lot going on today, or in different cultures and different traditions all around the world. And so I want to just break it down a little bit for you and then just kind of share my thoughts on what's Halloween about and what's important for us to know as Christians. I'm Steve, lead pastor of Everrise Church, and you're watching Rising. It's our weekly running devotion series where we talk about things going on in the culture, we talk about the Bible, and how we can apply it to our everyday lives. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, thanks everyone for watching. So today is October 31st, and as we mentioned in the introduction, there are quite a few things going on. You see, here in America, there's a huge holiday that we have historically celebrated called Halloween for many, many years now. And you see people decorate their yards with spider webs and ghosts and pumpkins and scary creatures and all these things like that. And then, as you know, all the little kids dress up, they get in their costumes, and they go walking around trick-or-treating, and they go from house to house getting candy, and it's just it's a good, fun time for everybody. But I know, especially here, it seems like in more recent years, there's been a lot more, not backlash or standoffish, but just maybe more questions or concerns, or just being careful about Halloween and what it stands for, what it represents, and what happens on this day typically. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about the brief history of the Halloween that we know, where it came from, where it originated, and how it ties in with All Saints Day and Reformation Day, which many of you guys may already be familiar with. So one thing that October 31st stands for is Reformation Day. And so that's known as the Protestant Reformation, when a guy named Martin Luther decided that he had quite a few things going on in the Catholic Church that he didn't think aligned with Scripture, and he wanted to challenge those. And so very famously, he nailed his 95 theses to a church and to the door of a church in Germany. And that is what we look back as what started the Protestant Reformation. And so we know through that has come a few different denominations of different churches that have kind of disassociated with the Catholic Church as a whole. And so the reason Martin Luther did that was because the Catholic Church at the time was doing something where they were selling indulgences. And basically, they were charging people money to be able to get this indulgence that said that either you or a loved one that you bought it for, it would have their time shortened for the amount of punishment that they had to endure through what they call purgatory. And so Martin Luther just did a lot of study of the Bible and thought that there was a big problem with that. One, because the church was just making a lot of money off of this. Two, we don't see really anything in the Bible that teaches about that type of practice. And so that was one of the big things that he challenged. And so on October 31st, many years ago, Martin Luther nailed his thesis. And so that is what's known as the Protestant Reformation. But what more people are probably familiar with is Halloween. Like I just described, it's just typically been a very fun holiday where people dress up and get candy, and people decorate their yards and get all spooky and things like that. And so some of what I'm going to share from you guys, actually, it comes from a newsletter that I subscribe to called the PourOver. And I will actually put a link down below or at the end of the video, so if anybody's interested. But it's just a short few-minute read that I get a few times a week that just kind of keeps things going on around the world and what's going on with politics and news-related articles and things like that. And so anyway, they sent a thing about Halloween, and I thought it was really good. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about what they said and kind of the nature of what Halloween is and what it isn't. All right. And so when we look and we think about Halloween as the way that we know it, really it derived from the Celts, who lived about 2,000 years ago in places that we would call UK, Ireland, and France. And what they would do is they would celebrate their new year every year on November 1st. It was kind of marking the end of the harvest season and getting them ready for the start of winter. And for whatever reason, they felt like the night before they were celebrating their new year, that for whatever reason, the living and the dead were actually closer together. And so they began wearing costumes so they could scare off any ghosts that they thought would have been there. All right. And so fast forward to our culture, our time, when European immigrants came over into America in 1850 to the 1900s, they brought a lot of these Halloween traditions with them. And so it would be things like dressing up in costumes, people going around asking for food and for money. And then pretty soon, by around 1950, trick-or-treating became a very popular, inexpensive way for communities to celebrate together. And so that's typically what we think of when we think of Halloween. And so it's got its roots going thousands of years back, all the way into Europe, where they were celebrating their new year at the end of the harvest. But there was also something else that happened. So all the way back in the 700s, and as Christianity spread, Pope Gregory III established All Saints' Day, which is on November 1st. And it was a day basically where they would remember all the saints, all the martyrs, all the people and believers of great people of faith, right? And they would remember all those who had died and who had already gone before them. And so what Pope Gregory did, as he wanted to kind of bring more of a Christian significance to what the Celts had started and celebrated, right, is he started this tradition, and it was called All-Hallow-Messe, which in Middle English translates into All Saints' Day. And so if that sounds kind of familiar, it should, because eventually that's kind of how we got to All Hallows Eve, which is what they would refer to the night before All Saints' Day. And so that's just kind of a quick, very brief background about how we got to where we are now with what we typically think of and celebrate as Halloween here in America today. Now, I understand that there are a lot of people that are very weary and leery. And look, I think this is one of those things where we each just have to pay attention and be in tune with what we feel like the Holy Spirit is revealing to us. And so if you feel that it is something wrong, that it is something evil, it's something that you should not participate in, then by any means, by no means, don't participate, and it's okay. If you feel like you want to abstain from celebrating Halloween or anything like that, I think that's great. Me personally, I'm more of the mindset and the tradition of it's just a really fun time to be able to spend with family, with friends, with your neighbors, and being able to just be involved in the community and what's going on. And so for me personally, I don't see that there's anything wrong with putting up some decorations and going trick-or-treating and passing out candy, if that's kind of where you leave it. Now, I will say this: witchcraft, voodoo, Wiccan, practices of the occult, all of those things are very, very real, and we don't typically acknowledge it and talk about those things a lot because we don't understand a lot of it. But those are very real practices. And I believe that the spiritual realm is a very real place. I believe that there are spirits. We can see throughout some of the stories in the Bible that it talks about bringing spirits back and contacting people from the dead. And so, look, I'm not going to deny all of that. All right. But it does specifically say throughout the Bible that those are practices that we need to stay away from as people who follow God, as Christ followers. And so what I will say is I think we need to exercise extreme caution in some of the things that we allow to be a part of our Halloween traditions. I would very much stay away from anything that involves witchcraft, voodoo, practices of the occult, some of the things like that, because those are very real things, and it should really not have any part of our life as Christians. And so I would just throw out a word of caution there. But for the most part, I think Halloween is a really good opportunity for us to be able to connect with neighbors. I feel like it's a great time for us to be able to love on our community, for us to be generous, for us to be able to pass out candy and just have a good time with all those who are celebrating trick-or-treating and just the fun and the festivities that come along with that. And I will say this, however, the Bible does tell us that we need to be ready to give account for the hope that is in us. And obviously that's talking about our relationship with Jesus Christ for those of us who are Christians, right? And so I will say, as you are celebrating, if you so choose to do, and you're trick-or-treating or you're passing out things for Halloween, I would say, ask God to show you and give you ways where you would be able to share Jesus with people that you come in contact with as you're celebrating and as our community is coming to our doorsteps this evening. And so I would say that we can actually use this as an opportunity to be able to talk about Jesus and to be able to share our faith with people, not in a weird and obnoxious way, but as we love people and we care for them and we're being generous, it certainly provides an opportunity for us to be able to engage in some conversations with people. And so that is what I would love to see all of us do as we go into tonight and this evening, and people are going to be walking by and coming. We should use this as an opportunity to be able to engage with our community and to be able to love them well and be generous with them, looking for opportunities to share Jesus. And so look, there are a lot of different beliefs and things about Halloween, and I totally understand that. And if you do not agree with this video, I get that too. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I feel like this is one of those things, like I said at the beginning, that we each just need to kind of pray through and see if God is putting something on our heart as far as whether or not we need to stay away from it, or the ways in which we choose that we're going to celebrate or just participate in some of the different Halloween activities. And so that's pretty much all I've got for you for this video. I hope maybe if there's people out there that are just kind of debating whether or not they want to participate, or just are trying to figure out your thoughts on this whole topic, I hope maybe just this kind of helps give you a little bit of perspective. I at least shared my point of view and my opinion, and there are certainly people that have different points of views and opinions about this as well. But by and large, what we celebrate here started thousands of years ago. Just kind of folklore and tradition, and it has just kind of slowly morphed into what we call Halloween and trick-or-treating here. So however you choose to spend your October 31st or November 1st, I hope that it is a great time with whoever it is you're going to be around, and I hope that all of us are looking for ways that we can be able to continue to share our faith with the people that we come in contact with on a daily basis. So y'all, until next time, take care. God bless.